So I think we've built it up enough. Darragh, will you read it out for our listeners and let them decide whether it was indeed a worthy winner?
I'd love to.
Darragh Reck, transition year student at St Mary's C.B.S. in Enniscorthy, reading out his winning essay on the greatest villain in history, the Flea.
Thousands of rotted bodies, twisted with the vile stench of disease. So many lives stolen, their fate corrupted. Their soulless bodies, icy, frozen, behind the mist of this dreary dawn. But who is the cause of all this manic pain? None other than the flea. Why have I chosen this tiny creature as the greatest villain in history? Well, the story goes back to China in the early 1330s, where there was a serious outbreak of bubonic plague which killed millions of people. Now, the bubonic plague is mainly a disease of rodents, but our friend, the flea, inhabiting the fur of the black rat, for example, can easily transmit the disease to humans. Once a person was bitten by that flightly flea, the disease spread like wildfire to others. In those days, China was one of the busiest trading countries in the world, so the flea had no problem travelling. Cozily ensconced in the fur of the black rat on trading ships to Middle Eastern countries, where it caused a major pandemic, leading to serious depopulation and permanent change in both economic and social structures. By October 1347, the infected fleas had reached Europe. When a fleet of Italian merchant ships recently returned from a trading mission to the Black Sea, one of the most important trading links with China, were found to contain a considerable number of people dying from the plague. Within days, the disease had spread right across Sicily, killing people with terrible speed. It was no time before the disease had spread throughout the whole land of Italy, and then to other Western European countries, reaching England in June of 1348, and our own country, Ireland, later that summer. In these parts, people called it the Black Death because of the black spots on people's skin. A terrible, merciless killer was on the loose throughout Europe, and medieval medicine was powerless to stop it. The disease was absolutely rampant, killing thousands in cities, towns, and villages. And what was life was quickly life no more. Women, men, and children began rapidly falling like thousands of tiny dominoes being ruthlessly swept away. As the famous Italian writer and contemporary of the plague, Boccaccio, wrote, its victims often ate lunch with their friends and dinner with their ancestors in paradise. People really thought it was the end of the world, and many seemed to lose their faith in God as no amount of prayers seemed to ward it off. Though for a time, an extreme religious group called the Flagellants had a following, but their activities, however well-meaning, just spread the plague more quickly. In winter, there seemed to be a merciful respite for the people, but this was only because our friend the flea was taking a winter siesta. He was back in business again, however, each spring, wreaking his havoc. After 5 years, 25 million people had perished. 33% of the whole population of Europe. And that was just in Europe. The plague repeatedly returned to haunt the continent for centuries, with survivors living in constant fear that they would be next. It did not disappear until the 1600s, with medieval society never truly recovering from its effects. One of those being serious labour shortages all over Europe and beyond. So, the greatest villain in history. Not Stalin, nor Hitler, nor Pol Pot, or even Vlad the Impaler. But that infernal little flea.
Well, I think the name Darragh Reck is one that you'll be hearing a lot more of in the years ahead.